Well, welcome in. Here we are. It's another morning in the Story Studio Network Daily. I'm Dave with Aaron, and
hmm
you were up early this morning. You thought you had a class all set to go.
Yeah, I thought I was going to do my kickboxing class this morning at 5:30. Got up, was ready to go, and realized my class is tomorrow. So I blasted through my inbox. I got a lot of admin stuff done this morning, which is great. I like starting the day that way. And I just noticed we hit 100 likes on the Story Studio Network Facebook page officially. So yay! Thank you for
That's
all the
good.
support.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is awesome.
yeah. And a lot of, as we pointed out the last few days, lots of good questions about what it is we're doing here and when we're going to get going. And
Yeah.
so I'm glad that we're able to sort of pick and choose a few details on a daily basis. 10 minutes here in the morning. So if you want to join us on Facebook, otherwise you can watch the recorded version and share it. And if you know somebody that you think is, got that business brain that wants to be involved in branded content, by all means, share it with them. Now, we talked yesterday about what makes great branded podcasts, and we were citing work done by Jeff Fiddler.
hmm
And I mean, above all else, I mean, it was, fairly simple, targeted, smart analysis around what makes great branded content vis-a-vis a podcast. But that advice applies just about anywhere. It doesn't matter what kind of content you're working on. But I know you've been doing this for a while, and
hmm
and in digital terms, this seems like a long time, a lifetime ago that you started doing it. Even then, though, you had to kind of let the brand get out of its way. But that was a hard thing to convince a brand to do.
Yes. Yes, it was. So I started, branded content really, I have to say this, and I a little bit hate to say this, evolved out of a blend of digital content marketing and influencer marketing. Where those two things intersect is where you get the current state of branded content. Um, and it was the people who saw how the concept of influence and the concept of digital can be combined in a really beautiful way. But it took a while to get here. And in the nascent stages of branded content slash influencer marketing, some brands were still stuck on but this is a commercial. So I've been working with brands of all shapes and sizes I just did a P&L for my lifestyle business, and we went all the way back to 2014. So I've been at this a long time. And you're right. The difference between the campaigns that worked well and frankly went smoothly from an operational standpoint versus the ones that were a slog that didn't resonate was the brand's ability to understand the importance of the creative elements, the importance of it not being a commercial, and understanding that the content is meant to lead, right? The sale doesn't lead. So I've worked with brands, I'm safe to say this because it's all public knowledge. I worked with Giant Tiger for a very long time. I worked with their team for 4.5 years, and to me, that's a brand that really understood their role and my role vis-a-vis the branded content. Now that was like media spots and all kind. It can look different ways, but and then I've worked on other campaigns where the brand was just, they called it branded content, but it wasn't. They wanted a commercial, and when you're not on the same wavelength, it just doesn't work as well.
Yeah, I think one of the important things, we posted the piece on LinkedIn yesterday, and I think Jeff Fiddler picked up on a comment that you had made, that this is about building relationships, not really.
Mhm.
It's not about selling a service. And so
Yeah.
once you can gain that engagement, you're part of the network. Then you're more likely to get champions, right? To
Yes.
actually stand up and talk about your product or talk about your service, and that's really valuable stuff, because once that happens, you couldn't buy that.
No, you couldn't. And I mean, I could get really granular with how you can create branded content. Like there's just multiple ways to do it. So, still a lot of brands I see are working with influencers, are working with bloggers. You can look at that as a paid, you know, campaign that's a commercial, or you could take a step back and look, can we partner with this person to create branded content? There's a difference in the approach, right? And like I said, I've worked with brands like, Giant Tiger. I recently, over the holidays and in the spring, did a campaign with Hoover Canada. That went really, really well because we were able to weave in storytelling,
Yeah.
natural elements that were happening in the background. So it didn't feel salesy at all. And it resonated. And the response from both the client and the audience was amazing. Versus, I've worked with other brands who were literally asking for like sentence structure updates and for very, very specific edits. And it's like, okay, if that's what you want, you need to hire a voiceover actor and give them a script and get them to read a commercial because that's not branded content.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this at a number of levels, people were having a harder time understanding that. And typically
Mhm.
it happened at agencies. They just
Yes.
didn't get it at all.
Yes.
Even though on the other side, I mean, both you and I worked in mainstream media for a long time. We both happened to work at Global, and I was a news director in Toronto. I remember
Mhm.
having this conversation about offering a suite of services to create this, what would, they called it native
Yes.
advertising in those days, but the same thing, branded content. And there was a real misunderstanding in the media outlet itself in terms of how it was going to execute this. So it got a little fuzzy at the front end. But to your point, this is about relationships. This is about creating your own tribe, if you will. And
Mhm.
it's not expecting that somebody's going to buy your product at the end of the show. This is a long, slow burn. So one of the things that we want to talk about is the project that you launched last year, Permission to Leap, which I thought was
Yeah.
a bang on in terms of creating relationship in terms of your brand.
Yeah.
But we want to extend it and do something similar with that product that we're doing with the next normal.
Yeah. So permission to leap was, I mean, I'll be the first to say I was I did a lot of things last year. I had a baby in a pandemic. I grew my business. I launched a podcast. I did a lot of things. So permission to leap was a test for me. Uh, to see how I could hold an audience with my own branded content. There's no one else involved and there's 19 episodes and it's just me speaking to my people. It is my gift to them. And it generated more buzz and more conversions over the long term for my strategy business, my consulting business, than any other lead generation I have done. And now it wasn't a huge podcast. I was preaching to the choir, but people still come to me and say, "Man, that resonated with me." I remember that episode. When you said that one thing and I was jogging or I was walking the dog, I had to stop and put it in my phone, right? It resonated. So I paused that show knowing that there was something else there, knowing that I didn't need to be the only voice at the table. And now is the time for us to invite other people to the table with for permission to leap. I want to stand it back up, but I want to bring in other female voices to make it better, to make it bigger.
And what's important here for the audience's sake is that this was really about your experience, not just as an entrepreneur, but a woman who was trying to navigate being an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
whether it was from the business of doing business, or whether it was financing, or whether it was just thinking that you were good enough to do it. There was so
Yeah.
much that goes into it, and
Yeah.
so I think that that's sort of the context for this show.
Yeah, and yeah, we talk about very deep business strategies, digital business strategies, but also, yeah, that worthiness thing. When you walk into a room, how do you be confident enough to ask for a sale when you've never done that before as a female entrepreneur? So, we'll talk more about the kind of person we're looking for to bring into that show. But I wanted to put that out there that it will come back, and it will come back bigger and better and badassier than it
10
was. It
seconds
was
here.
pretty
We're just
badass.
it was pretty badassy, yeah.
Yeah,
So that, but again, if something here really tweaks with you and you've got an idea, like Permission to Leap, like the
yeah.
next normal, listen, we're happy to share it, and if it's worthy of production, we'd be happy to jump all over it. So, all right, that'll do it for your Thursday edition of the Story Studio Network Daily. We'll be back at it tomorrow. It's the Friday dump. See you then.